Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Rockville High rape case takes an unexpected return with anticipated dismissal. But is that the end of the story? Purple Line delays continue as judge cites environmental concerns for more studies. Montgomery County liquor stores announced they will require identification from all purchasers, and President Trump promised that we would become tired of winning. After 100 days, is the president tired of losing? Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the Dean of Democratic Politics, Sam Statland, Republican National Committee woman for Maryland, Nicolee Ambrose, and consultant and business strategist, Rich Parsons. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Earlier today, attorneys for two illegal alien defendants charged with the rape of a 14-year-old female student at Rockville High School leaked reports to the media that they expect state prosecutors to drop the rape charges. The sensational charges of a freshman girl being raped in a boys' lavatory at Rockville High during school hours by two illegal alien teens shocked Montgomery County and the nation at large. Rich, today it was learned that the prosecutor is dropping the rape charges because the intercourse was considered consensual. Should that be the end of the story?
Well, it really shouldn't. There was a shameful jumping on board this case to make an obvious kind of anti-immigrant bashing that took place in the national media. This is the downside of impulsive presidential leadership by Twitter. They react to unproven allegations that turn out actually not to have been the case. So they went and had great hay. A lot of the white supremacist websites picked up this story and ran with it coast to coast, and it became a big deal. I think some people in the White House maybe owe us an apology because it turns out they were wrong.
But aren't you being dismissive of the fact that a young girl was having sex in a boys' lavatory at 9 o'clock in the morning?
I was going to finish. That was the other area where this isn't finished. I think there's major issues if that's the kind of behavior that's happening in our high schools. That's a whole other issue. But I think there needs to be some accountability for the way this case was irresponsibly blown out there as a case for why all immigrants are bad, which is.
And it's also, Casey, a really good lesson.
No, this was a Willie Horton thing. This was a Willie Horton moment that the Trump administration engaged in. It was intentional. They jumped all over this, made big hay about it, and now it turns out there's egg on their face. So that's number one. Number two is
the facts don't change that the two young teens that are involved here were both undocumented aliens that were here only because of the policies of President Obama. Yeah, so that doesn't those facts don't change. Nicolee, when the story first broke, parents were outraged that such acts could be committed on school property without regard for any consequences. Will the dismissal change the perception that parents have about the safety of their children in the schools of Montgomery County?
Parents should be alarmed, students should be alarmed, and the administration here in Montgomery County should do something about it. Let me give you some facts. Last year, 27 sexual assault incidents were reported in Montgomery County High School, one of them in Rockville. Now, more facts that I haven't heard any mention of, but in one news article, are the following. This young lady did have text messages with Montano, okay, that the defense attorneys were saying implied it was consensual, but that was with the one, and then he had further, Montano had text messages with his friend about committing a crime against this girl. So one of these men, I see no proof that one of these men did not rape her. And secondly, a woman isn't allowed to change her mind and say no. So I sincerely hope that the Montgomery County State's Attorney did not bow to political pressure. I sincerely hope that this administration is not threatening this girl. How is she going to go back to this high school for 3 more years? She was a 14-year-old freshman. How does she get through a school that clearly is not supporting her and trying to politically expediently dump this case in?
The facts of this case are just horrific.
Deeply disturbing.
And as a parent, they are disturbing. Because of
Casey, don't you think it's
the
a
raw
lesson?
Nature of the allegations.
Don't you think it's a lesson learned that when a case is under investigation, things don't leak out to cause such a exposure to the press that involve national issues? And in the end, the charges were dropped, except for the charge of pornography.
I don't see any reason why these charges should have been
that.
dropped, especially
Well,
against the
because
second
we don't know why
defendant.
we don't know
know.
why the charges were
Because
dropped.
legally
We don't know.
they weren't guilty of rape, and they
No,
weren't.
Sam, we don't know that.
You do
It
not
couldn't
know
be-
that.
Sam, you don't
Well,
know
I
that.
think
we
McCarthy
know they
dropped
couldn't
the
prove-
charges.
yeah,
We know
know
they
So he
dropped the
dropped the
charges.
charges.
But the charges
You
are
still have
oftentimes
pornography
dropped
charges
because
out
the
there.
because the witness and the victim will not cooperate with the police. This was not a case where statutory rape was.
Casey, that hasn't come out anywhere where they didn't cooperate.
We don't know that. We haven't heard all. We have
Sam's point is that
a
people-
statement from the
Casey,
state's
point is
attorney
that you don't hype-
that he was not.
Thank you.
He was not going to go forward on the prosecution.
Casey, forget the R, forget the D. Why do you hype something until you know all the facts?
Exactly.
Well,
Another
And that's
fact
the
that-
point.
that Nicolee
Here's what
made.
we need. What we need. The only way I will consider that anyone jumped the gun is if I see proof. If a story is corrected, if I see proof that the second young man did not engage intentionally in a criminal act against this woman. Furthermore, I would like this young lady to feel comfortable to come forward and say, I made this all up. Until she does that, I'm sorry. It looks like she has been piled on by the machine in Democrat
This is a
Montgomery
shocking
County.
turn of events. I think there's more to the story that has to come out, and regardless of whether they were being prosecuted or not, the fact is that the school system, Montgomery County school system, needs to correct itself.
Exactly, which is
That's
the
a
point
given.
Nicolee made, and that's the point we've made
Sam,
for
we gotta
days
go. We
after
gotta go.
days after days, that the
Sam,
school system doesn't take care of property.
We're going to the next topic, which is a very important topic. Maryland officials, including Montgomery and Prince George's County, held a rally this week urging federal judge Richard Leon to reconsider his earlier ruling calling for an additional environmental impact statement before construction of the Purple Line can begin. Judge Leon was appointed to the bench by President George W. Bush and was once considered a possible nominee to the Supreme Court, so I'm sure there's politics involved here somewhere. Rich, is this an instance where the environmental laws are being used to hamper a much-needed construction project?
Not really. I think this is more a case of a judge stepping outside of the bounds of what usually happens in these cases and inserting himself in a technical evaluation question about ridership estimates that he's not qualified to make. He's not qualified to know how the Federal Transit Administration does its ridership forecasts and the impact that changing ridership now in the next few years of Metro going through this maintenance surge is going to have on a Purple Line that's not even going to be built till 2023 or so. So this is a very strange insertion of a judge's individual decision that you never see. So that's why I think Purple Line supporters are right to call a question about this and say, hey, what's going on here?
Judicial activism is a plague on both sides, I would say.
This was a wrong-headed judicial activism in my mind.
Well, when will the tortured tale of the Purple Line ever end?
It will end when this judge decides to let it go ahead. The president is in favor of it, included it in his budget. We came close to losing over $100 million because of this inaction. The governor is for it. County representatives, Ike Leggett, Rasheen Baker, all the supporters are for it. It's good for the economy. It's good for jobs. It's good for locating the FBI in Prince George's County.
This is I chose
this is a waste
topic.
of time.
I chose this topic because of the outrageous length of time it takes to do a construction project
and that is a good point.
And get a transportation project completed. It is obscene that it takes 10 years or more to build a roadway.
This is a Maryland problem. Virginia
no, it's an American problem.
Maryland has the same. Maryland has the same National Environmental Policy Act, the same Clean Air Act, the same Clean Water Act restrictions, the same process for the environmental impact statement studies that have to be done in these projects that Virginia has. Virginia just went in 6 years from concept to we're driving on it for 39 miles of new express toll lanes on I-95. It took us 52 years to get the ICC built. It's taken 24 years and counting for the Purple Line. It's taken over 20 years for the Corridor Cities Transitway. It is a Maryland failure. We get caught up in process and forget about results. And that's something we have to work on.
Is there a swamp in Annapolis that needs to be drained? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the swamp needs to be drained in Montgomery County because not only does it involve transportation, but it also involves any type of a construction project, whether it's in apartments, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's a strip shopping center, whether it's a mall, whether
And how
it's
do
the
we
location of a
how
school.
do we fix that, Sam? We keep
By electing people to
we keep
office.
re-electing the same dopes into
Well,
office.
Casey,
Well,
in this
because
case,
of,
the elected officials have been pushing this project. The transit benefits of the Purple Line are well established. This is a project that was literally
how
4
do you
days
fix
away
it?
from
How
a
do you
final
fix it?
agreement. The judge makes a decision, and the
right.
clock is ticking.
We got to go to break. When we come back from this short break, President Trump promised that we would become tired of winning. But after 100 days, is the president tired of losing? And Montgomery County liquor stores will require identification from all purchasers. Stay tuned for more. 21. Welcome back. Robert Dorfman, Director of Montgomery County Liquor Control, announced this week that county liquor stores will card all customers no matter how old they look. What's with this? Rich, is this a reasonable approach to preventing underage drinking, or did they succumb to political pressure?
This seems to me foolish, nanny state political correctitude run amok. I mean, is a 95-year-old grandmother going to get carded? Is that a useful, efficient use of county manpower and woman power? You know, is that really the way to run an efficient operation? I don't think so. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't see how it helps. Their current policy was 35 and under they would card. Anyone who looked 35 or under. What was broken about that?
Because somebody complained.
I'm
You
looking
know why they changed it.
I don't get it.
Because somebody complained. We got 1 million residents in Montgomery County, and they're all whiners and complainers. Sam, if it makes sense to require identification of all purchasers of alcohol beverages at county stores, shouldn't the Board of Election change their policy and demand identification from anyone who wants to vote?
Casey, anyone who registers to vote in the state of Maryland is required to prove citizenship. They may not have to show ID at the polls, but they certainly have to prove citizenship in order to become a registered voter and sign an affidavit that they are. And we have never had an incident of voter fraud over
That
the
we know
issue
of.
of identification
That we know of.
in Maryland.
That we know
never,
of.
Never, ever.
There is
Okay.
no basis to think this is a significant issue in any way, shape, or form in the state of Maryland. Sam is exactly right.
Well, we just had a petition from the Judicial Watch looking for names and changing.
It's a red herring.
It's a red herring.
Very big
Nicolee.
red herring.
I have to say, not only am I well aware of this case, which hopefully Montgomery County might enter into a consent decree for so many bad actions with your voting problems, but I have served as an election judge in the state of Maryland, and I have to say I've personally witnessed problems and called them in to the main office to speak with the director of the Board of Elections when I have witnessed these incidences, and nothing has been done about it. But in the spirit of bipartisanship, if you let people be carded and you are honored to be carded, I will say as long as you card people, just card them to vote and we can come to an agreement.
As chairman of the Montgomery County Board of Elections,
Past chair.
supervising judges in the street, I will tell you that there has never been an incident of voter fraud in the county, and the action brought, insisting upon an investigation, is totally a red herring and a waste of state resources.
Well,
Why are there so
Hear,
many
hear.
names then on the voting rolls that shouldn't be there, Sam?
Because,
an old
Casey,
database.
we
That doesn't mean they
comply
vote.
with federal law, and federal law requires an 8-year cycle to remove somebody from the rolls. You have to send out a preliminary voter ballot. If it comes back for 2 cycles, then you can remove people.
And just 'cause
Who
they're on
sends
the
it
list
back?
doesn't mean
thrown in
they're
the
voting.
trash.
Federal.
They're thrown in the trash by the occupant of the house.
Casey, we remove thousands and thousands of people every year from our rolls. And as a person, I will tell you, who ran for office and knocked on doors and saw 100-year-olds living in that household, you got to say to yourself, gee, why are they still registered voters? And it's because of federal law.
And you drive.
Maybe
Did
Mr.
you
Trump
drive
will
Nanny?
change it,
Did you
although he
drive
is
Granny
trying.
to the voting place and get her to vote for you, Sam?
Of course.
Of course you did. All right, let's go on to a better topic. During the crisis of the Great Depression, President Franklin Roosevelt set a standard that all of his successors have been judged by. What have they accomplished during the first 100 days in their office? Depending on whom you talk to, the first 100 days of the Trump administration have been a disaster. While others hail his accomplishment in foreign policy, immigration reduction in regulations that has improved the economy, and the big kahuna of them all, the appointment of Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. Sam, legislatively, it's been a mixed bag for the president. How would you rate his first 100 days?
Within Montgomery County, I'm giving him an F+ because within the budget he did include funding for the Purple Line. But when it comes to the Affordable Care Act, the legislation proposed and passed by the House will cause us in Montgomery County to have 100,000 people uninsured and 300,000 people within the state of Maryland uninsured. Where are these people going to go for health care? And as Martin Luther King said, one of the big injustices in this country, beyond civil rights, is not having adequate health care.
Well,
absolutely terrible.
Judging beyond just that one issue, Sam, how would you judge President Trump? Is there anything that he has done that you've liked?
I kind of like his foreign policy a little bit because he was very firm with China. I believe firm maybe with Russia. Who knows? After some other comments we've heard on television that were not too swift. But overall, I really think he's done a poor job, especially when it comes to domestic politics.
All right, Nicolee, the Washington Post, no friend of President Trump, published an article the other day that Mr. Trump has learned from some of his miscues, but continues to commit many more. How would you rate his first 100 days?
Well, on the issues that matter most to me, I'd say an A, and I'll tell you what those issues are. Number one, foreign affairs. I, by far, think our federal government is absolutely the best way to provide national defense. I love that our allies, once again, think we are a strong ally and friend to them. I love that our enemies are afraid of us again. I was thrilled with what he did in Syria because for years, since the fake Syrian red line, I have been hysterical about the gassing of children in Syria. I think Trump is doing a very good job triangulating North Korea, working with the Chinese and other of our allies in the region to triangulate the North Koreans, and I'm very pleased with how that's working with a very difficult situation. And then secondly, domestically, I'm thrilled with Judge Gorsuch. Obviously, Trump made that a huge part of his campaign, the promise to replace Scalia with a justice in that ilk, and he did. So
Rich, you're dying to jump in, but I want to before you answer, I want to ask you about the role of Congress in all of this, because what we've seen is dysfunction on both sides of both political parties in both houses. So can that ever be corrected so that we have a functioning government? Ruling by continuing resolution is not the way to legislate.
No, Congress has been broken for quite some time. It's reached new depths, I think, of dysfunction under this current Republican leadership. And the only thing that keeps Trump's perception from being an accurate F-, which is what I would give him so far, is the comparison to Congress, which is a big red F-. So, I mean, he only looks good in comparison to the dysfunction in Congress. But, I mean, he has lied to the American people. He said he would support a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare in his first 100 days. He's only gotten it through the House, and the bill that he was celebrating on the White House lawn this week goes right back on a promise he made to protect those people with pre-existing conditions, protect the guarantee of coverage. The bill does not include that. They put a fig leaf of funding that's not nearly adequate to make that promise look like it's still in place. He has lied to us repeatedly. His foreign policy, I think, has been a disaster. I think our allies are looking at us like we're crazy. They're not looking at us with strength. And I think many areas this president has gone off the deep end. His tax reform blows a $2 trillion hole in the deficit. I think it's an F performance. The only thing saving him is Congress is even worse.
Isn't the prime job of the President of the United States governance of this country?
I'm sorry?
Isn't the prime job of the President leadership and governance of this country for the benefit of its citizens? Don't we elect people to serve the public, to serve the people.
that's the
And-
He's done a
Congress.
terrible
But
job
Casey,
serving the
it's
people.
there's no
I would
lessons.
like-
Doesn't the
But I wanna-
president lead? There's
Sam,
no
that's a-
leadership.
Sam,
Casey,
that's
let
a
me
red
make a
hit-
point.
Yeah,
Nicolee.
I'd like to talk about health care for a second. Okay. First of all, the bill the House passed does include pre-existing
No, it does
conditions
not.
and $8 billion of funding for the risk
Over
pools for
5
that.
years, and it's
it does.
no
Secondly,
expert
what
thinks
I
that
am
that's
also
enough,
looking
just for the
forward
record.
to is the Senate, which is also working on their own bill, and so something's going to go to conference. And this is the legislative process. I want things to be difficult to pass,
you know what?
and our elected representatives to work to come
I'm
up
sorry,
with a bill.
Nicolee. I'm sorry. Let me
Secondly,
jump in.
100,000
Because the
uninsured
legislative
here.
I will
process-
talk now
the-
because you have been talking for
Okay.
the rest of the show. So
But I want to point
the
out to
other
this.
points I'm really looking forward to, because we are headed towards socialized medicine in this country. We already got it. We're headed that direction. What makes America America is a level playing field. And if you socialize and then have to privatize healthcare in some portions to get good coverage, you don't have a level playing field. So things I'm really looking forward to that the House is working on are, one, an association bill for healthcare that I can freely associate with whomever I would like to buy into a group to get my health insurance. Number two, coverage across state lines. That is critical. Competition is critical. We have a third of American counties right now without one or any Obamacare insurance
We got one more
provider.
minute. I want to
Yeah,
say
I gotta
some
jump
time.
in.
I got to say
Real
some
I
time.
healthcare
love-
coverage.
It's up to Congress to change the law, and they won't fight the insurance
Well,
industry.
Sam, let me
That's
jump
why
in.
we don't have national health care.
Let me
That's why
jump
it
in,
gets
Sam.
stopped.
There is two things of massive revisionist history that you just heard from our good friend Nicolee here. One is this whole concern about the legislative process. The way Congress is supposed to work is you go through the committee process, there's disclosure, there's reading
Rich,
the
but,
bill.
Rich,
let me
Rich,
finish.
this whole
None
thing
of
has
this
been
happened.
broken down.
Let me finish, because the point is the Republicans savaged the Democrats for passing with one-party votes the Affordable Care Act in the first place, which, as we all recall, was based on the Republican plan, okay? But now the Republicans have done the same thing without any effort to reach across the party line. That is
Well,
not how
I'm
Congress
really
is
glad
supposed to work.
I'm glad,
That is not
I'm
the
glad, I'm
legislative
glad
process.
we now have consensus on the performance of President Trump over the first 100 days. We're as divided.
Horrible.
We just demonstrated we're as divided as ever, and I suspect we will be divided 300 more days from now as well. Stay tuned for
Worst
Party Shot.
president ever.
We're coming right to you.
I'm ready.
You're ready. All right. Welcome back. Now with Parting Shots, Sam Statland.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're as upset about changes to the Affordable Care Act as I am, you're going to really be upset, as I've said before, that we are going to have 100,000 people uninsured here in Montgomery County. We're going to have 300,000 people uninsured throughout the state of Maryland. One organization that treats uninsured, regardless of income, regardless of what insurance they may or may not have, is Mobile Medical Care Incorporated. I encourage you to go to the Mobile Medical Care website. This is an organization where service is provided by over 140 volunteer doctors and nurses in 17 locations throughout the county. All people are accepted, and it's basically free care. This coming Thursday on the 11th, we're having a major fundraising at the Hyatt Regency in Bethesda. It's a great evening for $60. And 90% of that money goes to direct care. Our partner Hyatt Regency provides all of the staff, food, and location, and the staff donates their help. It's a great event, Thursday, May the 11th. Please come and
Thank you, Sam. Nicolee, your Parting Shot.
Sam, I have even donated to Mobile Med before. Great organization. But today I would like to share my condolences with the Hogan family. Larry Hogan Sr. passed away, and I just reflect on what a challenging past 2 years Governor Hogan and his family have had, from his cancer fight and his successful overcoming of it, and now his dad, who was a tremendous role model for both him and everyone else. So condolences, and thanks for staying focused on the ball and leading us here in Maryland, Governor Hogan, despite all of these challenges.
Thank you, Nicolee. And Rich, lead us out.
And I want to share Nicolee's comments. We obviously send condolences, but also want to share them to a great leader here in Montgomery County who we lost this week, John Carmen. Not only did he help found and grow a thriving, successful business here for more than 60 years. One of the leading firms in engineering that helped design award-winning communities like Kentlands. He's left a true mark in this community. He was a great leader at the Chamber, the Rotary, so many things. John Carmen, you did a great job, and we will miss you.
Thank you, panel. I want to thank you for participating tonight. It was a lively discussion, and there's going to be more to come. I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.